The moment I turned to confront them, Iris clutched her stomach in pain. She pointed at me and spoke in a tearful voice. Clara, how could you be so heartless? Are you seriously trying to hurt my baby? Do you have to be this cruel just because Simon doesn't love you? Simon anxiously held her and looked at me with deep disgust. Clara, I knew it. You really still can't let go of me. You even found out that Iris is pregnant. Are you trying to get rid of our child while everyone's distracted? I'm warning you. Even without this kid, I'm still never going to marry you. I could no longer hold back and interrupted the two of them. When did you ever hear me say I wanted to marry you? 8 years have passed, and you're still just as disgusting and full of yourselves. This is your last warning. Get out. Chapter 3. Simon had not anticipated such outright disgust from me. He struggled to maintain his composure before forcing a calm smile. There you go again. It's the same stubborn act from 8 years ago. You're obviously miserable without me. Every day probably feels like forever. But the second I show up, you pretend you couldn't care less. Honestly, it's exhausting. Exactly. Everyone knows you've been hung up on Simon for 8 years. You visit the Capitol Hotel every single year. All because this is where you confessed to him back then. Haha. Iris covered her mouth as she chuckled. She then mocked me by saying, a woman who isn't loved is just pathetic. All she can do is live in her memories. Honestly, a woman whose whole world revolves around some guy is the saddest thing. Now, someone like me, who stands side by side with a man and grows with him, that's the way to be. Don't you agree, Madam Windsor? Laurel was too worried about Elio. She did not pay attention to what Iris was saying. I could no longer hold back. I stepped forward and stared coldly at the two of them. Simon, I suggest you take your beloved mistress and get out of my sight. Otherwise, you're not going to like what happens next. Pfft. Iris glanced at me dismissively. What are you going to do? Cry your eyes out and show up at the airport in some cheap knockoff dress to chase after a man again? Just like you did 8 years ago? Hearing this, I shot a look at Iris, who wore a smug expression. Meanwhile, a flicker of guilt flashed across Simon's eyes before quickly vanishing. I never expected Simon to tell Iris about that. Simon and I had dated for 3 years. When he was at his poorest in university, he could not even afford his tuition. As for me, I came from a well-off family, and my parents doted on me. So, I had plenty of spending money. However, I kept a low profile on campus and never flaunted my family background. On my 18th birthday, my mother wanted to give me a Chanel haute couture dress. She made the reservation and transferred the money into my account. I was excited to buy it after receiving the money. However, Simon's father was diagnosed with cancer. Simon broke down and cried in agony. He stood in the rain and demanded to know why the universe was so unfair to him. I knew he had been saving up for several years to study abroad. If that money went toward his father's medical treatment, his future would be ruined. So, out of sympathy and my love for him, I transferred the money meant for the dress to him. To keep my mother from worrying, I bought a cheap counterfeit dress online for $200 instead. That counterfeit dress was of very poor quality. A classmate exposed it at the university gala. The entire university mocked me as a false heiress and a vain poser. They said that I was clearly broke but still posing as a rich girl. I was cyberbullied and ostracized. As a result, I broke down emotionally and developed depression. During my darkest moments, Simon stayed by my side. He held me and wept. It's all my fault. I'm the one who did this to you, Clara. I swear that one day, I'm going to give you the life you deserve. You'll wear designer dresses forever.